Why does the death of one person we can actually see feel so much more tragic than the suffering of 1,000 people we can't? It's a question that feels like it was made for our modern world, but it's one that a brilliant writer was exploring over a century ago. All right, let's get into this fascinating little story.
So, what we're digging into today comes from a short story by the legendary Russian writer Maxim Gorky. And trust me, this tale packs a serious philosophical punch. And it's all told through the eyes of one of the most jaded, cynical characters you will probably ever meet.
And this is pretty much our starting point. It perfectly sums up the worldview of our narrator, a guy named Shasha Vinokurov. He's seen it all, he's done it all, and honestly, he is not impressed with any of it, or with any of us, for that matter. Okay, so let's really get to know this character, because it's through his completely world-weary eyes that Gorky unfolds this really profound and kind of unsettling story about human nature. I mean, Shasha has had quite a life. He ran away from home, he spent time in prison, served in the military, and then sailed the world for 7 years on training ships. He's tasted every drink, seen every port, and he's come to one single, pretty bleak conclusion about the whole thing. And this really sums up his entire philosophy. To Shasha, people who travel are just these pathetic creatures, desperate for distraction. He thinks all their excitement and drama is just ridiculous. I mean, he literally says he has never seen a single place on this earth that he'd call interesting. He is the ultimate disillusioned observer. And it's the same detached, cynical guy who's about to witness something that even he can't quite wrap his head around. So let's get to the main event of the story, which all happens on what was supposed to be just another boring voyage. So try to picture the scene, right? You're on a passenger ship sailing through the China Sea. The night is, as Gorky puts it, ink black. The air is hot, suffocating. It's one of those nights of just perfect calm and boredom, until one single cry just shatters the peace. And there it is, the two words that change everything. All of a sudden, that monotony is completely broken by a spectacle. Way off in the distance, a small flame appears, like a tiny flower of light blooming in this huge darkness. Just like Shasha would have predicted, the passengers, these wretched creatures, they all rush to the deck. But here's the thing, they're not horrified, at least not at first. No, they're fascinated. They gather around like moths to a flame, debating what kind of ship it is, just enjoying the free show. And this just perfectly illustrates the kind of human drama that Shasha finds so absurd. An argument breaks out. An energetic, noisy woman demands they go and help. But the more practical passengers, they start complaining that it'll make them late. Some even argue against it, saying the victims are only Chinese. But the woman keeps at it, she gets a group together, and basically forces the captain's hand by reminding him about maritime law. So very reluctantly, the ship turns toward the fire. So the rescue happens. But it's what happens after the rescue that holds the real core of Gorky's story. This is where we run right into the central paradox of it all. Their ship pulls up alongside the burning one. It is total chaos. People are getting pulled from the water. 3 people actually drown in the panic. But one man, the Chinese captain, he just stands perfectly still on the deck of his flaming ship, and he refuses every attempt to rescue him. He just stands there, silent and stoic, as the flames take over and he sinks with his ship into the sea. And as this one man dies, the same woman who started the whole debate, she becomes completely hysterical. She starts running around the deck just crying. A man is dying. A man. Her grief is just all-consuming, focused entirely on this one person she has never, ever met. And right here, this is the crucial contrast. Shasha is watching this woman's intense, very public grief, and he's just baffled. He remembers how these same passengers sailed right past Singapore where hundreds were dying of starvation, and nobody shed a tear. They'd read about hundreds of their own countrymen, Russian workers, getting crushed in accidents, and they felt basically nothing. And yet, the dramatic, visible death of this one unknown man unleashes this incredible tidal wave of emotion. And through all of this, Shasha just watches with this cold, detached gaze of a jaguar. That's an image from the book itself. He's not judging them from some moral high ground. He's more like a dispassionate scientist, just observing a bizarre species and trying to figure out its strange rituals. This is Shasha's final takeaway from the woman's grief. He doesn't see it as pure compassion. He sees something ugly,
Something performative, maybe even self-indulgent about it. It's like her tears are more about her own experience of witnessing the tragedy than about the man who actually died.
So let's zoom out for our final section and see how this all builds to a much larger point. Because Gorky isn't just telling a story about a weird night at sea. He's holding up a mirror and asking us to take a hard look at the strange selective nature of our own empathy. So through this one simple anecdote, Gorky is asking these massive questions. Why does one story, one single image, have so much more power than statistics about thousands of people suffering? When does our public display of grief become more about us than about the actual victims? And what does real, effective compassion even look like? But here is the absolute masterstroke. Gorky doesn't give us an easy answer. Even our narrator, the so-called know-it-all, is left completely stumped. He thinks it over and over, and all he can come up with is that there was something fundamentally stupid and illogical about the whole thing. The story just ends with no neat moral, leaving the puzzle for us to solve. And that brings it all right back to us, doesn't it? In an age of social media and a 24-hour news cycle, we are just constantly bombarded with tragedies, big, small, near, and far. Gorky's century-old story forces us to ask a very modern question. When you're surrounded by endless suffering, how do you choose what to care about? And maybe more importantly, are you sure you're making the right choice?